Welcome back, my lords and ladies, to the Cast Beyond the Wall. That's right, we're back at it again for our 10th anniversary as your guides to all things Westerosi, and we're here to bring you a review, an analysis, and sometimes even a fan v fan debate on each episode of HBO's Game of Thrones successor series, House of the Dragon. They said winter was coming. It's been 2 years, but I maintain that it still feels pretty damn hot outside because they are debuting Season 2 in June. That is Sunday, June 16th. This Sunday. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and it feels good to be back, Targaryen style. I'm also thrilled to be rejoined by my co-host. You might know him as the Stark Believer. He still thinks the Starks are coming back for a victory. Sir.
I'm Daniel Stoll. And Caleb, I had to ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you think we're going to see any more Little Toe this season?
Little Toe.
Sorry. I mean, Lair Strong. The guy, he's Alicent, the feet.
The feet guy. Yeah.
I've been calling him Little Toe. Because he's kind of like Little Finger.
Like Little Toe. Oh.
Little Toe, because he's into the feet.
The feet fetish. Yeah. I see what you were doing here. Oh, gross. God, they did set up for the foot fetish season. Okay, wow. If listeners were thinking about tuning in, we just lost them with a foot fetish talk within 2 minutes. Daniel Stoll. I'm so happy to see you, my friend, talking House of the Dragon. I really hope we didn't just lose a crap load of listeners who get grossed out very quickly. How are you today?
Unfortunately, we probably also just gained a bunch of listeners too. So I don't know what the numbers are going to do, but we'll have to see. But no, I'm so happy to be back. It's been 2 years actually since
somehow
season. Yeah, it feels like both. Just the new show just came out, and it's also been way too long since the second season. But it is here, and I'm super happy to be back with you, having these conversations about the House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones. It's just we've been doing it for such a long time now. It feels I miss it when we're not in the room podcasting. So I'm happy to be back.
I'm so happy you're back too. And listeners, he's not messing around. He misses it so much. He's been staring at his Night's Watch costume, waiting for the moment to bust it out. He obsesses over it. He thinks about it. He is going as a man of the Night's Watch this Halloween. He's wearing a costume right now. You can't see it, but he, much like the Starks, is ready for winter. Listeners, so as always, you can keep track of all of our posts by staying subscribed to this RSS feed. I hope some of you are still tuning in. We're also still on. Daniel, there's been some major updates in the internet world, actually. I have noted here that people can follow us on Twitter at cast_beyond_GOT. Unfortunately, Twitter has taken quite the nosedive since the last season. It is now known as X, and as of last week, they said porn was legal on there now, or is allowed. So it really is Game of Thrones Westerosi style up on Twitter. So maybe should watch it under that. But you can also still keep up with updates on Facebook at facebook.com/cast beyond the wall. Or you can just follow me on social media. Daniel, I'm thrilled to be back, but we do have some important programming announcements kicking things off. So, listeners, sometimes HBO, they just kind of operate on their own timetable. And this year, their timetable happens to land at, holy shit, life's really busy. And Daniel and I both have day jobs and lives and things. So we are going to continue to do this show because much like the dead, this podcast will never die. But that does not mean we cannot adapt our scheduling. So this season of the Cast Beyond the Wall, we are going to change the schedule a little bit. We're going to continue doing a normal recap for the show for the season 2 premiere. A little recap and review of episode 1. And again, if you missed it, House of the Dragon Season 2 premieres on Sunday, June 16th. That's Father's Day. Daniel, do you remember the last time a Game of Thrones episode fell on Father's Day? Do you remember what happened?
I don't remember, but because you're asking me the question, I'm going to maybe guess that it might have been the death of Ned Stark or something. That's what I'm going to go with.
Well, you're close. You're very close. That was the episode in which Tyrion shot Tywin Lannister on the toilet.
Oh, that's
Happy
right. I
Father's
do
Day.
remember.
Yes.
I remember that now that you bring that up. Yes. What a
Mhm.
great Father's Day that was.
That was an incredible Father's Day, and it makes me really curious about what's going to happen this Father's Day, Sunday, June 16th. So, listeners, that's right. It's going to be back on Max, the one to watch for HBO. HBO proper, I guess, if you still watch linear TV. Check it out. I think it's going to be, it's 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central Standard. Now, after episode 1, we're going to be breaking the season into pods. So episodes 2 through 4, that's 3 different episodes. That's episode 2, 3, and 4. We're going to be coming back and we'll be publishing our thoughts on all 3 of those episodes on Wednesday, July 10th. Why is that? Well, quite simply, there's a lot of crazy scheduling life things happening, and we would not be able to get you those episodes if we did it on a weekly basis in a timely manner. So we're adjusting it so that when we drop episodes, it's going to be full of the Westerosi goodness, the Lannister gold stamp of quality, you could say. So again, Pod 1 is going to publish on Wednesday, July 10th. That'll cover episodes 2, 3, and 4. Pod 2 is episodes 5 and 6. And we'll be discussing those mid-season episodes later in July on July 24th. And then episodes 7 and 8. So we're going to be covering episodes 7 and 8, Pod 3, the final pod of episodes. That's the penultimate episode in the season finale. Because yes, there are only 8 episodes of House of the Dragon this season. We're going to be doing that review and recap on Wednesday, August 7th. And then we're going to come back the next week for a season 2 wrap up on August 14th, Wednesday. So, we like to marinate in those last couple episodes and think back about the season so far for a proper season 2 wrap up. With that said, that'll cover our programming updates. We're super excited. And of course, we'll be inviting a variety of guests on to those episodes. Otherwise, today, what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be doing a quick sneak peek at the upcoming season, really just trying to do a vibe check. How are we feeling about House of the Dragon almost 2 years later? Whose side are we on? And what are we looking forward to the most? So, Daniel, I must ask the question. Now that we've got some distance, what did you think about season 1 of House of the Dragon?
As I was reflecting back onto season 1, it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be before season 1 started. I know when House of Dragon was announced and it was going to be coming out, there was a lot of hesitation online because of the way that Game of Thrones ended. So many people had problems with that there was a lot of even pushback of like, is this even worth watching? Do we want more Game of Thrones or more things in that world? And so there was some hesitation, but I think pretty quickly it established that like it's going to be a very high quality show. And in some ways, I think it felt like old Game of Thrones where it was a lot more about like there's these political maneuvers happening. There's these a lot of people in rooms talking and just a lot more. The cast, I think, was absolutely stellar. There were so many great performances. I think maybe the highlight for me and probably a lot of people would be Olivia Cook as the older Alicent. I think that she was a really, really standout performance during the season. And so I think it ended up being exceeding my expectations in a lot of ways. Granted, some of those expectations were a little cautious after the ending of Game of Thrones, but I think it was a very exciting and brought a lot of new things as well. Like it's definitely different than Game of Thrones. It didn't just sort of rehash this sort of Game of Thrones sort of vibe. It also brought a lot of new stuff into the show, which I really, really enjoyed. So I think overall I really liked it. And I think that it set up beautifully for a second season. That image of Rhaenyra turning and looking at the screen with the final image of season 1 still very vividly in my mind. And after she learns about the death of her son, and I am very excited to see how she responds to that, which I think we'll get to it later. The title of the episode might be a little bit of a hint about what might be to come. But yeah, I think it ended up being a great first season. And I'm all on board for the rest of the show as of right now.
So now I'm pretty disappointed in you because you did not. I mean, you said some nice things. I'm glad you loved it. I heard how much you love Olivia Cook. Paddy Considine was a huge highlight for me. Played King Viserys Targaryen. Long may he reign, or rest in peace, however you want to say it. You're forgetting a very important character, one that I know was a highlight for you. In fact, so you're telling me that one of the things you're telling me you're not excited about the return of Fabian Frankel's Sir Criston Cole, because I know you were a big fan. You even have a T-shirt and everything.
I am absolutely ready for him to die, Caleb. If he doesn't, you know what? Honestly, continuity wise, if he doesn't show up, I'll be happy. I can waive it. It's fine. He was such a miserable character. It's such a I am ready. I am praying for his death at this point.
Got listeners, he's in denial. He has both his Night's Watch cosplay on, but he's also underneath it wearing a "I Love Criston Cole" T-shirt. Don't let him fool you. No, I think I resonate with you quite a bit. I still think that the ending of Game of Thrones, the hatred and vitriol towards it, is not super reasonable. I don't think it was a great ending, but I don't think it was a garbage ending either. It was just deeply flawed in that it was very, very rushed. But I still stand by that. I think that a lot of the story beats themselves were actually pretty interesting, even if the execution on how they got there was extremely, extremely haphazard and rushed in the worst possible way. No denying that. But that said, I didn't have quite the bad taste in my mouth that a lot of people did. So coming into season 1 of House of the Dragon, I was a little more optimistic, if I recall. I don't know, listeners can sound check me and go back and listen to the preview episode for 2 years ago. But I was pretty optimistic overall, and I felt like my optimism was rewarded by and large. I don't think House of the Dragon necessarily reaches the heights of Game of Thrones and at the peak. So I would say like seasons 3 and 4. I even thought season 6 of Game of Thrones was pretty good. I don't think it quite achieves any of those heights in terms of dramatic tension, but it also has only been one season. And I think it's just as good as season 1 of Game of Thrones and season 2 of Game of Thrones at least. And I was surprised by how much I became attached to the characters. I will say I'm having a hard time with Rhaenyra being Team Rhaenyra. Honestly, she's a little cold, and I feel like I'm supposed to be rooting for her. I'm not sure I quite bought once the actresses changed when they aged her up. I had a harder time connecting with that character, if I recall correctly. So going into the season, I actually think my allegiances are a little less clearly House Black, for example. Whereas before I was like, well, yeah, that's clearly who you're supposed to root for, so I'm on their side. But I don't know. The years have passed. My love and affection for the Blacks has dwindled a bit. Here's what I will say. One thing that I thought was missing in season 1 that I would love to see if they can somehow incorporate. Not enough humor in season 1 of House of the Dragon. What I mean is, I thought the writing was actually pretty good. They got the drama, the dramatic vibes from Game of Thrones in there. A lot of family tension, that people talking in rooms, like you said, the betrayals, the politicking. We finally got there by the end. I'm missing a little bit of the humor you get, from the Baelish Varys stuff, or the Hound, or obviously Peter Dinklage's Tyrion Lannister. There's a lot of. That was a special touch that we had in the original Thrones that I definitely felt like was sorely missing in House of the Dragon. And I'm hoping they can come up with some creative ways to incorporate a little bit of humor into the otherwise very, very serious world of House of the Dragon. I will also say, in retrospect, season 1 of House of the Dragon feels like a very long epilogue, even the way it's structured, because there's a lot of that time jumping and all the histories that you cover. So I'm also expecting that with season 2, we should be hitting the ground running, so to speak, in terms of the end of season 1 is a climactic moment. But it's only climactic because it's like, oh shit, stuff is about to go down. War is upon us now. And I'm very excited to see how that war unfolds. So count me in. Very, very excited overall. Now, Daniel, I have already probably show my hand too early in the classic fights of Team Black, that is Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen, or Team Green, that's Queen Alicent Hightower and Prince Aegon. Which side would you gravitate towards? Which side would you pick?
I was thinking about this where I would sort of put my allegiances, and I'm gonna cheat, Caleb. I'm gonna cheat, just like people in Game of Thrones are always cheating and backstabbing. I'm gonna cheat and backstab, and I'm gonna say I am Team Black, but I'm more than Team Black. I'm just Team Alicent. I don't care about Team Green as a whole. Just Alicent. Her character, I think, for me was probably leaning towards one of my favorite characters of the season for season 1, and so I'm all pro Alicent. But I don't.
So you're on the Greens. You're rooting for the Greens. That's it.
But I don't care for really anybody else on the Green side. But if I'd be, here's what I want. Let's just go back to Alicent and Rhaenyra. We're so good, such good friends. Let's just get them back together.
It's all water under the bridge. Oh wait, her son murdered her son.
Yeah, I think it's pretty over.
I think the friendship's over. Yeah.
But I do love Alicent as a character, and from what we know about King Aegon, I'm definitely not King Aegon, but I am pro Alicent. So it's which I think is a testament to the show, really, that I have so many mixed feelings about this, that they've developed all these characters that I can feel like I'm rooting for people on both sides, which makes it really complicated to choose a side wholeheartedly. But yeah, if you pushed me and I had to pick one, I probably would pick Alicent. Her. Not necessarily her family, but her. I'm all for Alicent.
Is it because you pity her?
No, I just think she's such an interesting character with the dynamic that she started when she was younger, like basically kind of being forced into this position through her father, but then kind of taking ownership of it herself after her father left, was banished and her sort of taking control of that situation and doing her own thing. I just find her really compelling as a character. And so that it's hard. And a part of that is Olivia Cook's performance, to be fair. I think she just killed that role and nailed that role. And so I'm drawn to see her more. And as you said, Rhaenyra has Daemon, who we have somehow not mentioned yet. But
he actually is the comedic. And in terms of the comedic relief characters I was talking about, he is the best. He's the most comedic, but he's still not doing it all for me. But he is good. Matt Smith is great, always.
Yeah. But Daemon, again, is also a character who I've got some complicated feelings about. In some ways, I think he's really awesome. And in other ways, I think he's a very terrible person. So it's nothing's, we like to make things black and white, Caleb, but I think there's a lot of colors and gray going on here. And it's hard to just stick to one side.
You must pick a side, Daniel. You must. You have no choice. This is the only way.
Well,
okay. I mean, is it too late to hope that Littlefinger somehow shows up and takes over the throne? Is it too late for that?
Oh, I think it's too early for that, Caleb. I think that we're like 200 years ahead of his time or something like that, right?
What? Oh man. Okay. I will say, I guess, and maybe this is a bit of a criticism too. I am struggling, and I think this is actually the job season 2 has to do. I really think I don't really have a side I'm rooting for per se. I kind of like characters on both sides a little bit. Yeah, I do really. I think Alicent's a strong character. I really do like Daemon just because he's fun. Frankly, Paddy Considine, King Viserys, was probably the character I liked the most from last season, and he's no longer with us. So and I am not crazy about adult Rhaenyra. So I have not yet landed on which side I'm truly rooting for. And again, team sides is silly. I think you're right. It's muddled. I like characters on both sides, But at the end of the day, I just want to see some dragons eat some people. Is that bad of me to say?
No, I think we're going to get a lot of that. I think we got a little bit of a taste of that at the end of last season, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that moving forward.
This is the Dance of Dragons, after all. It's a legendary war that we'd only heard about in Game of Thrones, so it should be a pretty big deal. We should be seeing more dragon battles than anywhere in the history of Game of Thrones. Well, maybe, Daniel, again, super short, light episode, but my last question here is, what are you looking forward to the most about the return of House of the Dragon?
Well, I think we just sort of said one of the things I'm looking forward to is these epic dragon battles that we've heard about through Game of Thrones, or if you've read any of the books or anything like that, this war has been referenced before. And so I'm very excited to see that. I think, like you said, this is sort of an epilogue in a lot of ways for that. And so I think one thing we can definitely expect to see is a lot of dragons, and the dragons looked great in the first season. I don't know exactly what the budget is for this show, so I don't, they might have to be a little bit particular about how often they show us that, but I think that's definitely going to be a part of the show, and I'm very excited for that part of it. And like I said, I am excited, even though I'm with you in some ways about not feeling super locked in on who I'm rooting for to win the whole thing. But I think Rhaenyra, they sort of, again, referenced that shot earlier where the entire season ended with her basically looking into the camera after finding out that her son had been murdered. I think that was a lot of foreshadowing probably in that moment of her response to this. And so I'm really excited to see now that, they've been trying so hard for years that, with all the time jumps, they've been trying for years to sort of prevent this very thing from happening. And it is no longer preventable. It is happening, and it's going to be utter chaos. And I'm excited to see what that, let chaos reign. I'm excited to see where that's going to bring us.
So Daniel's in it for the spectacle. I'm just in it for the memes, Daniel. I'm in it to see the people make the memes at lightning speed. I still don't think House of the Dragon quite hit the fever pitch of memes we were getting in Game of Thrones days. I mean, it was kind of insane. But last season did give me a little bit of warmth seeing how all these people kind of come together and be making fun of the show and enjoying the show in those different ways. I'm also just really excited to be talking with friends like you, Daniel, about the show again at the water cooler. In this case, the virtual water cooler. And, we have some great guests coming to join us later this season, probably some familiar faces listeners have heard in past years. Always a great time. Can't wait to talk to everyone about it. I should mention, I liked that we're getting a little bit of, for example, with episode 1, Alan Taylor, a TV director, is coming back. Claire Kilner, another great TV director who's directed some episodes of Fallout and Gen V most recently, but also a great show called Sneaky Pete from back in the day. And of course, going back to Alan Taylor, he has directed several episodes of Game of Thrones, especially in the earlier seasons. Most particularly, he did Beyond the Wall, Valar Morghulis, the Fire and Blood, Baelor, the iconic episode 9 of Game of Thrones season 1. So, we lost Miguel Sapochnik last year, who was kind of the big battle guy from Game of Thrones. And once he was out, they brought Alan Taylor on to be more of an executive producer. So I'm interested to see what creatives like him bring to the table. But I overall am just excited about this 8-week experience, plus, a couple extra weeks we'll be doing with the podcast. And listeners, I hope that you're also excited about this season. Let us know what you're most excited about by sending us an email to castbeyondthewall@live.com. You can also hit us up on social media. That's facebook.com/castbeyondthewall, or on formerly Twitter. Maybe we'll check it, maybe not, at cast_beyond_GOT. Daniel Stoll, let's move into a sneak peek of season 2 by looking at this first episode.
The Targaryen who sits the Iron Throne is not just a king or a queen. They are a protector of the realm. Now I find myself in an impossible position.
All hail King Aegon!
The enemy usurped my throne.
We're going to King's Landing. Well, what are we going to do about it?
We must play the board before us.
Proceed cautiously.
Fuck dignity!
So you have already alluded to this, but the episode 2 season premiere is titled A Son for a Son. Any ideas or thoughts about what we might be seeing here?
Well, I'm going to read into that, as we already talked about, season 1 ended with the death of of Rhaenyra's one of Rhaenyra's sons. Yeah, so I think, as we kind of referenced, the end of season 1 basically ends with the death of Luke, Rhaenyra's son, and we end that with her finding out that information. And so I think if I'm reading into this title, it would make sense that perhaps Team Green will lose a son in the beginning of this episode, or at some point during the upcoming episode. I think that if we're taking the title literally. So I think that's something that we can definitely expect. I think we can definitely, this is the first episode back. You're going to want to bring in the audience. So I think we can definitely expect to see some sort of spectacle, some dragon, perhaps get some dragons right off the bat in some sort of a battle or fight, get people really sucked in and excited about the show. And so I think those are some things we can probably expect. But, the last season 1 was very interesting in its format with the time jumps and even the different actresses and actors for different parts of the show. I would anticipate now that we're pretty much in a much shorter time span from the beginning of season 2 to the end of season 2. And so we can probably get a lot more of a contained story as well moving forward. So I think those are some things that we can look forward to get some more time with some characters instead of having these what was it, like maybe several years, at least 10 years, if not
several time jumps. Yeah.
Between at least somewhere between 10 and 15 years passed over all of season 1. So I think, we're gotten to the point where we're ready to tell this story about the Dance of Dragons, and it's going to be a little bit more contained and narrowed in that way.
Yeah, I think we're going to pick up like almost immediately after the season 1 finale. Like, I don't think there's going to be much of a time jump at all. So Daniel, of the sons, are you thinking that Aegon, the Incelli kid, or are you thinking more like Prince Aemond with the one eye and the big dragon, Vhagar, is going to be the one to bite it? Well, and there's the two options. So incel kid or probably a serial killer son. Which one's going to go?
Well, I don't think it's Aemond. I think they've built him up so much with his eye. He's clearly been presented as like this epic fighter. In fact, if I recall correctly, he even calls himself an upgrade to Daemon in one of the scenes. So he definitely has the prowess, and he, of course, is the source of Luke's said murder. So even though I think it was not necessarily intentional by him, like with the way his face looked during that scene, I think he was a little like, "Oh, I took this a little too far on whoopsie."
He's like, "I wanted to play chicken. I didn't want him to, blow up in an explosion, but whoopsie daisy."
Yeah. So I think we've gotten some setup for him to be a more of a long-term character. So unfortunately, I think we're looking at, as you so kindly put it, incest kid.
No, sorry, incel kid. I mean, but he is also probably an incest kid. So those things are both true. I don't know that another son is going to die. I think it's going to be more of a reference to a thing. I think Rhaenyra is going to say something like that, but I can't imagine Aegon or Aemond is going to bite it. I think Aemond is the one who's more vulnerable in that he's more public, like he's out and about, but he's also, like, as you put, a very prolific fighter with the biggest dragon in the land. So I think he's pretty safe. Aegon is the king, and he's got like 1 million guards. He's not leaving King's Landing. So I just can't see any of them going. I guess Sir Varys Strong might bite it. He's a son of someone important, right? I guess he could go. But then where did the foot fetish go? I don't know.
That's what we have to tune in to find out, Caleb.
Oh my God. And we end with the foot fetish again. Okay, goodness. Daniel, anything else you want to add about the upcoming House of the Dragon season 2?
I'm really excited. It's been a long 2 years waiting for this season, and I am very excited to get into the season and get this show on the road.
Let's get on the King's Road, you could say. Again, listeners, if you want to keep up with more episodes, head on over to our social media channels, Facebook or X. Maybe we'll start an Instagram one day. Oh, how social media has changed in the last decade. You can catch me on all the social media platforms at CMasters Talk. That's letter CMasters Talk. Daniel, do you even exist anymore on the internet? I get the profound feeling that you're actually a ghost right now. Can people find you online?
Not really. I pretty much don't do any sort of social media. I will say one thing that has changed, I've been a lot more active on Letterboxd since the last time that we recorded.
The Letterboxd, that is the best social media app, especially for people who like to watch movies.
Exactly. And so while I won't necessarily be able to put get any sort of House of the Dragon stuff on there, but you can find me on Letterboxd at dstoll, and you'll see a lot of horror movies there if you're a horror fan. I tend to enjoy the horror genre, so you can always find me there.
All right, listeners. Well, there you have it. Maybe you should just start watching some more movies and come socialize with me and Daniel on Letterboxd. Thank you so much for tuning into our very short House of the Dragon Season 2 preview. We're very enthusiastic. We're very excited and can't wait to see Fire and Blood come once again. Join us next week, again, when we go Beyond the Wall.